transfer portal quarterbacks taking visits. If you want to try and improve your projected win total in Las Vegas whenever those come out, go land a quarterback, you're probably sitting in a better position than you would if you don't go and address a need in that sense. So a lot of big-time names are on the move right now, and a lot of big-time names taking visits right now. So we'll kind of unpack where those guys are headed when it comes to the visit trail and give you our thoughts on how they would fit should they end up going to some of these places they're visiting. Cam Ward is visiting Miami today. Miami checks a lot of boxes for the number one quarterback, number two player in the transfer portal for us here at On 3. Bigger stage, right? You love the Pac-12. It's not going to exist next year. So staying at Washington State, the competition level you could play against going forward, probably not as high as it would be in the ACC. Bigger stage for NFL scouts, be able to put your resume through a better filter for them when it comes to how you project to the next level. Also, I think this offense under Shannon Dawson is pretty quarterback friendly. And there's going to be a lot made about Tyler Van Dyke and about Emory Williams, the success that they didn't have offensively last season. I really believe if you put the right guy in that system, by nature of what they want to do, by nature of what they did early in the year, the way Tyler Van Dyke was spinning it against Texas A&M, I think this team and this offense has a chance to be really successful. Have to imagine NIL's also, Miami has their NIL ducks in a row by nature of them even being in the Cam Ward sweepstakes, because he is, again, the best quarterback in the portal. So there's probably some penny you'll have to pay to land a guy of his services. But I want to make sure we say this about Cam Ward. I think he is the domino that will set the pace for the rest of the portal quarterback market. Like, I think Cam Ward, especially after Dylan Gabriel and Riley Leonard both committing to other schools, I think a lot of folks, a lot of teams rather, are watching and seeing what Cam Ward does, and then that'll kind of impact how they move forward with how they will address the rest of their quarterback board. Also, there is potential that Cam Ward visits Florida State. Now, Florida State would make a lot of sense to me for the same reasons Miami does. Checks the boxes in terms of playing against better competition. Checks the boxes more than likely in the NIL department. The big thing with me with Florida State, and we said this about other quarterbacks potentially visiting Tallahassee or maybe even making the jump to Tallahassee as a portal guy, they have a proven track record of success with transfer portal players coming to Florida State, having success immediately. If I'm a transfer portal guy, that gives me a lot of encouragement that I'm walking into a situation where I have a staff that understands my abilities, that understands how I can be utilized, and understand how to adequately acclimate me to my new surroundings so I can have success. Like, that would be one of the number one things I would look at, quite frankly, especially if I'm a quarterback. Do they do well with transfer portal individuals? Taking a step further for Florida State, they are already up and running as an organization. What I mean by that is Florida State, by a lot of people's accounts, could have and maybe should have been a college football playoff team this year. There's a winning culture. There's a staff that understands the standards to win football games. Like, it's a healthy organization. I'm not saying Miami isn't. I'm not saying any other school isn't. But I am saying you know what you're getting. There's a level of certainty involved with Florida State playing at the level they are right now. So for Cam Ward, Florida State would also make a ton of sense. Now, the number 5 player in the transfer portal, Will Howard, also visited Miami. And what we said about Cam Ward and the NFL and being able to run your resume through the filter of playing in the ACC for NFL scouts, that checks the boxes as well. What I said about the Cam Ward domino, I think also probably is true for a guy like Will Howard. But for me, Miami, as much as it makes sense, I still like USC for him. I still think USC is just a better fit overall for Will Howard for the reasons of what I said in a previous live show. If you're Will Howard, you're looking for the most quarterback-friendly situation from where I'm sitting. Well, I mean, Kansas State, as well as they played last year offensively, I think you still would like to flex the muscle a little bit more of what you can do pushing the ball downfield and being a passing quarterback. USC, they throw the ball 57% of the time. Lincoln Riley, say what you want about his defense. I don't know there's anybody better in the country when it comes to dealing with and developing quarterbacks. Ask Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, Caleb Williams. You get the picture. If you want to compete at the highest level and want to help your NFL draft stock and develop at the highest level, I think USC makes a ton of sense for Will Howard. So, again, visited Miami. We'll keep an eye on Will Howard and where he's potentially going to be headed and any other visits he ends up taking. One more note on Miami. If they were to land either of these guys, I think they're only a quarterback away from being really dangerous. Mario Cristobal, what do you know about him? He's a builder. He's going to build his roster. He's going to prioritize talent acquisition. He's already done so with how he recruited in the 2023 class. Francis Mauigoa, Ruben Bain are both freak shows. Both received a ton of postseason accolades, deservedly so. Having a quarterback to plug into that talented roster that I think is already trending upward, that could make all the difference. Probably need to also attack the portal for some playmakers on the outside. But again, I think a quarterback could be the difference maker for Miami. So landing Cam Ward or Will Howard would be massive for the folks in Coral Gables. Now, speaking of Miami, Tyler Van Dyke played at Miami last season, is also in the transfer portal. He made a visit to Wisconsin, and I really like this fit. Really like this fit. I think for Tyler Van Dyke, if you're looking for where you should go next, get back to what you do well from a system standpoint. Because everyone likes to talk about Tyler Van Dyke and how he finished last season and how he, kind of dropped off after 2021. Like, what people don't like to talk about is the fact that he had not one, not two, but 3 different offensive coordinators. So you're changing the playbook 3 different years for Tyler Van Dyke. Yeah, it's hard to progress. It's hard to get some continuity across the board there for TVD. So as much as you want to say about him turning the ball over, I think if he gets back to a system that he did well in, Rhett Lashley, currently the head coach at SMU, they just locked up for an extension, air raid offense, pass-happy offense. Same thing with Phil Longo at Wisconsin. Get back to what you do well. Get back to a system that plays to your skill set. Go put up numbers. Go have a great NFL career. We'd love that for TVD. We'd love that for Wisconsin. Will Rogers, speaking of a pass-happy offense, he is set to visit Washington this weekend. And I said it on another live show. We came to our quarterback portal predictions. Like, this makes all the sense in the world for me. If you're Will Rogers, my goal is to remind scouts who I am. Because last year, it was unideal circumstances in every sense. It was not an ideal offense for his skill set, going to that pro-style kind of approach. He was dinged up. Like, overall, probably just a year you would rather, like to kind of forget and probably like to make scouts forget. If you go to a place like Washington, go to a place that throws it 37 times a game, go play for a head coach that's going to the college football playoff right now that is doing really well with the quarterback in Michael Penix Jr., who was in New York City this past weekend for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. And also, you get to play for an offensive coordinator that Nick Saban sat down and had a conversation with this past offseason and maybe wanted him to come to Alabama, and Ryan Grubbs. So all that's to say, the staff, the roster, the culture, all of that is I think, ready-made for a quarterback to step into. The offense is the big part for me. Remind scouts why you were that guy that is top 5 in SEC all-time history in passing yards and in passing touchdowns. Remind them what you did in that air raid offense under Mike Leach. I think Washington makes a ton of sense, and he's visiting there this weekend. I think that's the best fit for him. Now, here's an interesting one. There are reports that Dante Moore is planning to visit Oregon. Now, remember, Dante Moore, 5-star quarterback in the class of 2023, committed to Oregon originally. Bo Nix says, I'm coming back for another year. He flips and goes to UCLA, and the thought behind that was he wants to play right now. He wants to play early. He did play early, had some good, had some bad, ended up not being the guy for UCLA in the long term this past season. He's now in the portal. Now, you would think, given his recruitment, you're like, okay, well, he wants to play right now. That's what he wanted to do coming out of high school, probably what he wants to do at his next stop. The report and the rumblings are that he would be okay with sitting. He'd be okay with chilling out for a year and learning behind a guy like who? Dillon Gabriel, who is ultra experienced and could show Dante Moore the ropes to be a successful college quarterback, because this will be Dillon Gabriel's 3rd stop. So needless to say, the common denominator of Dillon Gabriel having success at UCF, at Oklahoma, and likely now at Oregon, that's a guy that I would be excited to learn under. And I think it shows a lot of maturity here for Dante Moore, too, to say, hey, I think I understand. Maybe I do need a year to kind of figure this out. Maybe I do need the chance to learn under somebody. Because we talk about Dante Moore and his skill set. Charles Power, who's the director of scouting for us here at On 3, let me tell you something. He doesn't miss. And one of the things that he loved about Dante Moore coming out of high school, the words he used in the first line of his scouting report for Dante Moore, one of the more accurate and efficient quarterbacks in the 2023 cycle. Y'all, if you're accurate and efficient in Will Stein's offense at Oregon, you will put up crazy numbers. Just ask Bo Nix and ask him how that trip to New York City was as well when he was up there for the Heisman Trophy. So that'd be an awesome fit, and I think that'd be a mature decision by Dante Moore if he does end up visiting and if he does end up going to Oregon. One more we got to talk about here, Kyle McCord. in a vacuum, I know there's been a lot of buzz around Dylan Raiola and what does that mean for Kyle McCord. Like, we're just going to look at this in a vacuum. It would make a lot of sense for Kyle McCord, honestly, when it comes to the fit at Nebraska. Like, early on, I think I had a hard time seeing why Kyle McCord would want to stay in Big Ten country and go to a place that's, trying to get back to bowl eligibility. And I was kind of just like, man, I don't know if I wouldn't love him more in a spot that's away from what he's familiar with. Get out to the West Coast somewhere, or get out to the ACC somewhere and throw the ball around. But when I look at what it would require to be successful at Nebraska, I think it could be what drove Ohio State fans crazy a season ago. Like, Ohio State fans were so frustrated with Kyle McCord and the fact that it wasn't an offense that scored 40 points a game. The fact that they weren't seeing what C.J. Stroud did a season ago and Justin Fields before him, like, that was a frustration for Ohio State fans. For Nebraska, that could be exactly what you need. Because Kyle McCord, as much as people make jokes about him being a game manager, if you have a game manager last season for Nebraska, 5 games with 1-score losses, I mean, you may very well have ended up winning the Big Ten West and going to Indy for the Big Ten championship. Because Nebraska gave the ball away 2.5 times a game, did not have a quarterback that played for them between Jeff Sims, Heinrich Haarberg, Chubba Purdy, that had more touchdowns than interceptions. The best ratio of touchdowns to interceptions throwing the ball was Heinrich Haarberg. He had 7 and 7. So Kyle McCord was top 10 in QBR in the country last season, had 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. If you're just efficient at Nebraska, you might be in good shape. So we'll keep an eye on that, but Kyle McCord also visiting Nebraska, and we'll keep a close eye on all these guys' situations as they move forward and potentially get closer to making a decision here when it comes to transfer portal quarterbacks and the market as it stands right now. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.